Todd Wilson, thank you for joining the podcast today. I wanted to have you on because a lot of the topic you talk about is sports and children
Yeah.
and getting kids to the next level. I am a dad. I have my sons in all kinds of sports right now. My 7-year-old discovered football this year. I did not introduce him to football. I did not. I played football, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna see how long I can go without getting him into football. And now that he's into it, I'm all in. I'm
I
coaching.
bet.
I'm coaching his teams. Fortunately for me, he's become obsessed.
Awesome. When they
Yeah,
fall in love with it themselves, that's the best way to go.
it is because before that, he's done wrestling, golf, gymnastics, basketball. It is football that has stolen this man's heart. My wife talks about how he's never spoken of a sport every single day, all day, like he talks about football.
That's awesome.
And my wife's the kind of wife who's like, I wish he would have fallen in love with tennis or golf, and
Right.
uh, and it's like it's football. So for any of the fathers, I guess, listening out there, what is the best sports dad advice you can give someone who wants their kid to be the next level, get to the next level? And there's a multi part question. How much does the father influence that versus the kid having drive and the father being the one who's also willing to push him? Like, where's that balance? Because on social media, I see a whole lot of different opinions. I'm not saying one's right or wrong. I'm just curious. This episode is sponsored by Black Label Meat. Black Label Meat only sells premium quality meat that is grass fed, grass finished, and they do regenerative grazing practices. Check them out now, blacklabelmeatcompany.com, and use the code Jesse for 10% off.
No, absolutely. I think in my experience, I've been blessed to work with kids who had professional dads in the pros. And what I noticed about them is that they don't start pushing their kid to be serious about the sport until 11 or 12 years old, maybe even later sometimes. They allow them to have a childhood. They're their father first. Like
Mhm.
some of the kids, like Elijah Arenas didn't know his dad was Gilbert Arenas until he was like 12. Like he didn't know what his dad did. Like he didn't know that because by the time he was growing up, he was, remembering his dad was done with the NBA. And
Mhm.
so he didn't know how good he was. And so I believe that in their early years, man, just make them athletic, make them fall in love with working out, with being improving, being a part of a team, all those little things that truly matter to a college coach at the end of the day, right? When you're being recruited by a college coach, they're looking at your character. They're looking at your work ethic. They already know you're good at basketball. You want to be getting recruited by them. They want to see all
Mhm.
those little things. So I think developing those things early on, making those the foundation, and then once the kid falls in love with the sport, like you're saying, your son is all into football now. I bet you he and says, "Dad, let's go play catch.
Yeah.
Dad, can we work on?" That's the moment. Whenever that is, and it's different for certain kids. You're lucky. Your son's 7. You said he's 7 doing that already. Like,
He's 7. We homeschool. We're lucky. We're homeschool. I work from home. It could be 1 p.m. and he's like, "Can we go play catch at the park?"
that's awesome.
And he doesn't want to do it in the backyard. He wants to go to the park.
I love that.
Can we go play catch? Do you think so and so, like on his team, can do a play date and play football? It's like, well, he's in school.
No, I love that. And that's the thing is when they fall in love with it, I think that's the right rule. Is like be their dad. When they fall in love with it, now what you're teaching them is the discipline and what it takes to be a pro, essentially. The earlier you teach your kid how to be professional with their approach to anything, then that's when you find the kids that have more discipline and success through middle school, high school, and beyond.
And I definitely have that thought process that you were mentioning on that, like 11 and 12 really pushing. And only because when you look at Kobe, Brady, Jordan, they didn't get into their sports specific activity until they were all 12.
Yep.
All three of them. Brady didn't even play football till he was 12.
Crazy.
Jordan stopped playing baseball and went basketball. Even
Yeah.
Kobe was like, I didn't play till I was 12.
Yep.
Those things, it's like, okay, are they the exception? I don't know, because my background in sports is professional boxing, and
Mm,
then all the top kids were doing it since they were 5. They were all doing it so young. There are those exceptions, the Anthony Joshua's, the Deontay Wilders, who started way later. But for the vast majority of all world champions, they started when they were super young. Now, that
right.
could just be one sport specific activity, group of people. Maybe it's a cultural thing that they didn't have access to multiple sports, whether you're Ukrainian, Cuban, Mexican, any of those things. I don't know. I try not to get my son to only do one sport. Like, literally right now, he does golf still
Nice.
1 day a week. He does gymnastics. He still wrestles every day that we don't have football. He's in a year round wrestling, and then he's has football. And I try to actually structure some of the things to where he's not doing something every day. He has 2 days of rest, so he's not getting tired and burnt out. There is that aspect of, well, if he wants to do this, I'm sure there's something as a father that when your child's successful, some of it relies on the father to push them, drive them to practices, drive them 2 hours to go to see some other coach,
Yeah.
something. And I'm just always curious of like where that line is.
I think it's that is supporting them when they're ready to be supported, right? It's
Hmm.
that them falling in love with it, them pushing it, right? You see a lot, the majority of parents right now are parents who are pushing their kid to play the sport, either because they did or they see the opportunity in it, and it's for all good reasons. Like I never question the dad's heart. I want to give them the information that, like, hey, a kid has to want it. Your resources will never be enough to get the kid to the pros. It's
Hmm.
just too high level. I think a lot of parents try to use their own resources, saying, I give them the best training in the world and do all these things, and that's what's going to get them. That might get you to college. It really might. It's not going to get you to the pros.
I mean, I definitely think it can get you to college, only because I have an uncle with some money, and he had all 3 sons go D1 in baseball, and 2 of them didn't make it to the bigs. One of them still playing, and he
Nice.
still thinks he can go. So I've definitely seen that part of it, where when you have the money and the freedom, he was flying during COVID. He flew his kids to Florida because they were still doing all their sports in Florida. They didn't
Hmm.
stop. So they went and lived in Florida. And if you don't have the resources, that ain't happening.
Right,
That
right.
he's flying to Florida to watch their games, but even all bringing them up. And I was talking to my wife, because my son is so into football, and I believe that there's a level of the father has to push a certain amount. And it's like, my uncle was fucking mean to those boys, fucking ripping their ass as soon as he would get home. Like, why aren't you fucking hitting? Why aren't you guys catching? Because they were all catchers, and just
Mm.
be ripping them. And the youngest one who's still playing is like, man, I would have PTSD. My dad would pull up, and I was like, he it, do I need to be hitting right now? Do I need to be doing something? But my wife also thought that my aunt brought a balance because of her personality. She works in ER. She's chill, you know.
Yeah,
She's tough, but she's chill. She's relaxed. She's easygoing. And so it's like, what is the dynamic and the balance of like parenting, being a mother, father? And I see a lot of parents live vicariously through their kids,
man. That's the worst.
which is something I didn't want to do, which is why I never introduced football to my son, because I didn't want to be that dad, because I see those dads at wrestling. Like, I see the dad who's 50, 80 pounds out of shape, yelling at his kid while his kid's on the mat. And it's like, there's coaches out there who know what they're doing. You don't
Yep,
need to be yelling at your kid who looks like you don't even want to be out there.
exactly. Exactly. That is my biggest fear for kids, and my biggest education point for parents is don't live vicariously through your kids. It's a pandemic in itself. Especially, I'm in the basket. I mean, I'm in all sports with my business, but basketball the main one. And it's the guys who almost made it, right? The guys who are good enough to be a
Hmm.
pro but didn't quite make it, or good enough to be in the NBA, may have had a cup of coffee in the NBA and didn't make it. Those are the ones that are like, they feel like they missed out on something, so they're pushing their kid to do it. And like, man, your kid's too immature to handle the load that you're trying to put on them. But once again, those resources make up for a little bit of that because they're in the training, right? And you put the reps in,
Hmm.
you put the time in, you're going to get good at it. But are they really in love with it? Is their mental health at a state that you want it to be? All those things factor in, I think, when a parent puts themselves in a place of where their kid should be, right? Instead of growing them into it. And so, my biggest advice is to be a dad. Like, love your kid. And yes, show them how to work hard. Show them what it takes to be great. But do it in an area where they love, and do that part earlier, right? Like, oh, they might love drawing. Show them how to be committed to drawing. We're going to draw
Hmm.
every day. We're going to get better. I'm going to show you progression. I'm going to show you how you work through mistakes. I'm going to show you what you do when you're under pressure. You can teach all those things that are so vital to almost every sport through whatever that kid loves. And then when they find their love of sport, which most kids do find some sport they love, right? Then that's when you go at it. I think what you were speaking to earlier, you were talking about boxing, like everybody starts younger. I think
Hmm.
individual sports are different because golf, boxing, tennis, you do have to
Wrestling.
start. Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
start at a younger age because of the technique and the skill and the focus on what it is. Team sports, I think you could start a little bit later.
Okay.
Maybe not baseball. Baseball is interesting because it's like an individual but team sport at the same time as far as the technique and skill.
Hmm.
But for basketball and football, I think you can, if you can figure it out quick, then you can go, And so, but I think there's something to that, the individual sport versus the team sports and the
And
development in it.
that does make sense because so many of the Olympians, they've been wrestling since they were 5, they were 6, and it was almost all they did. Maybe they would do a little Pop Warner football along the way, but for the most part, they specialized, like the boxing, the wrestling, specializing in those sports. And I've always said that I thought baseball was an individual sport in a team setting.
Ah,
And my couple cousins would always get so butthurt about that. No, no, it's a team sport. You can't win without a team. It's like I get that you can't win without everybody else, but it doesn't mean it ain't an individual sport in a team setting.
right. Because you can be a pro by being the individual best in that sport.
Hmm.
You get a nice contract.
Yeah, and so one of the things that you mentioned is early on you can focus on a child's athleticism.
Yeah.
How does one go about improving their athleticism, their
So,
child?
yeah, so um a volleyball coach, so there's a London Weejay, she is at USC. She's a volleyball player. And so she skipped her senior year to go play at USC last year. Her mom, All-American, Hall of Fame volleyball player from Indiana. She now coaches at Alamany High School out here, has a CIF title, has a awesome AAUT program. And she said, put a sand pit in your backyard and teach your kids how to throw as early as possible. And both her and her son is a quarterback at University of Houston. So she has two kids who are freaking Division I studs, right? And they have
Yeah.
always been crazy athletic. He said, and so I put a sand pit in my backyard. And so now when we're outside having fun, we're running in the sand. We're opening up those fast twitch fibers and those muscles. So make everything competitive and physically active. We play at my house, we play American Ninja Warrior. I built American Ninja Warrior courses in my living room with,
Hmm.
cushions and trampolines, like little stuff that you can get that's not expensive at all. Um, and then put them in stuff. So I get a lot of advice from parents, and that's where I get all this stuff from. So I got that from Morgan, and then Katino Mobley, who played in the NBA for several years. To make an athlete, he said your kids should play 4 sports before the age of 12. And he said they should do swimming because it teaches you how to breathe the correct way. You do track and field, teaches you to run the correct way. You do a martial arts, teaches you discipline and then builds your core strength. And then soccer because your footwork and your peripheral vision, how you see everything. And so he did all that with his son. His son didn't start playing basketball until he was 12, maybe the end, like 12, almost 13. After this year, he's going to be one of the top ninth graders in the country. And
Hmm.
it was ridiculous because he was just super athletic and he has all these intangibles. So now when he's teaching him the actual game of basketball, everything is like second nature because he has these athletic skills that translated over to basketball. And he just had to teach him, this is how you shoot, this is how you dribble, this is how you read the floor. And then everything just came together. And he was dunking at like 5'9", 5'10". He could just
Mm.
get up. And so putting your kids in situations where they have to become athletic, but having fun doing it.
Yeah. So yeah, I saw a study on a group who they studied Dominican baseball players and Brazilian soccer players because they produce the best baseball players and the best soccer players consistently for the last, I don't know, 50 years. And one of the things they noticed is after they would do their practice, they would do a lot of free play with like no rules, no guidance. They would kind of be trying to play the same sports essentially, but it was in a more free play setting.
Yep.
Um, so they noticed that it was completely unstructured and just they were just free playing after their practices or throughout the day before they had a structured practice. And it kind of goes to what you're saying because maybe they don't have the resources to do all these other sports, but them just doing a lot of the free play movement around, running around, regardless if it's a different field,
Yep.
sand, etc. I really like that. I like the thing about the soccer and building the peripheral vision because I'm coaching one of my son's football teams, and the corners and safeties they do not understand that concept, and it's
Yeah.
like no, you got to be watching the quarterback. And they're like, well, what about the receiver? I'm like, that's where your peripheral is from, man. We're in zone. You're just dropping back and you want to get interceptions and picks. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
Like when I played, I never watched the receiver. I was watching the quarterback.
Right.
I didn't care if he was pumping this way and you can out of the corner of your eye, you see a receiver coming across the middle and then you can go and get that pick because that receiver's just trying to fake you off. I mean, that
Right.
quarterback, he's trying to look you off, going to come back to this kid. But if you don't use your peripheral vision, that ain't you're never going to happen. They're going to get so fixated on the guy, you're not going to see when the ball's released. You even see that in college. Sometime they can fake him out. He's so focused on what the receiver's doing. The receiver will put his arm up like the ball's coming, and then they swat at nothing because there's
Yeah.
no ball and the ball was going to somebody else. Or then he makes a move and then the ball goes to him. But they're little kids, so they kind of don't get it. But there is a part of me that's like, how do you not understand that you can see things on the side of you?
Yeah. I have a basketball drill that I help with that. Like I have them just look straight. What's the furthest thing you see this way? Furthest thing you see that way? And then I have them point. And so when you point, wherever you're pointing, your head has to be in the middle of that. And that age, I think, is when they're developing that skill. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if it can necessarily be like taught. The concept can be taught, but for
Mm-hmm.
them to understand it, they just have to rep it over and
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
And the other part is we used to free play everything, right? Like you said, I used to play football on the street, and you kind of just pick that the kids today that are skilled out and do all this training, they lack feel. They don't feel like I can feel basketball because I just played 21 growing up and played pickup basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Kids today, they don't know how to feel the game because they're so used to doing cone drills. And so it's probably the same with football. They're like drilled out, but they never had a, just guard their friend who's running a route and they're just throwing passes. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's a huge part. We implemented in our program. We in every sport on Fridays, everybody's free play. Coaches make sure they don't get hurt. That's it. No rules though. Just, we're teaching you all week. Now we want to see just how you play. And so we just let them play whatever sport it is. Just go play. We do 7-on-7 with football. Basketball just does pickup games. Baseball just kind of play. I don't know what it's called. They play their thing. Soccer, they have, I don't know, it's a random like 3-on-3 back and forth game. Like just go play. And just so they can start to understand that feel for the game.
And then, how old are you?
I'm 38.
Okay, I'm 37, about to be 38 in a couple months. So we're the same age. You brought up the thing of they don't just play in the streets anymore. So when I was young, my parents put me in the Boys and Girls Club, and it was nothing but the poor athlete kids who were fucking good. And we would play tackle football literally every day on the big field. That was all we did.
Wow.
And so I have two buddies who they play D1 football. One of them didn't make it, but he played arena football, bounced on a practice squad in the NFL, but never made it on the field. And we got guys running camps here, and we're talking, and we're like, man, these kids aren't as good as when we were playing the same age. It's like, because we remember when we were playing at this level, and it's like, because they don't play every day. They're
Yep.
usually like playing video games
Yep.
or doing their texting or on YouTube or on their computer, where we didn't have any of that. So we just had to play football. And I
Right.
just don't, even in school, we only played football. And then I would go to the Boys and Girls Club after school and we would only play football. I literally don't remember us playing other sports. And except in the winter, we would do basketball. But if it wasn't cold, we would play football
Right.
every day, day in and day out. And we would play tackle. And it was one of the things where my parents didn't even put me into tackle till fifth grade. And my buddies were playing since they were 5. But I was able to slip right in there because it was the same kids who we play tackle football with the Boys and Girls Club.
Right. Yep.
And nobody does that anymore. Nobody. And I talk to parents and they're like, they're not even allowed to take footballs to school. They can't play football because they're
Wow.
worried about like kids getting hurt. And it's like, man, things are different.
Yeah. That is literally why we started my program, Core Prep Academy. Like our kids play their sport every single day inside of school hours. And then they're going home and doing their club team, their extra training or whatever it is. It's like that's what was missing. That's why at least for basketball, I'm sure it's other sports too. You know, you see the European players coming in and being dominant in
Mm-hmm.
basketball because they're playing every day. It's a part of their school day. You go to an academy where you have 4 hours of school and then you just train. And so I was like, we need that here. And so that's why my program started. It was based off that European model of getting work in every single day. These kids become almost addicted to training and working hard. When they get to so I only operate my program operates in middle school, 6th through 8th. But when they go to high school, even they're like, Coach, can we come work out? We're not working out enough. They're
Mm-hmm.
so used to grinding every single day. They're like, man, we don't work hard enough, even for high school at some of these high schools. And so, that is, yeah, I'm an advocate for bringing that back. Kids like really committing to being active. I'm not even gonna say because like we talked about earlier, sticking to one sport. No, I don't care what sport you play. I just want you to work hard every day. And if sports is the way that you build that success trait, let's use it because that's what you're going to
Mm-hmm.
need when you get into the real world.
Yeah, and that commitment to the sport. You say you're signing up for the sport. You're fucking committed. This is what I tell my son. You're committed, and you're giving it 100% day in and day out. Because I don't need to be wasting my time to watch you lollygagging.
Right, right.
Because
Yep.
you're the one who wanted to. Or I've had kids just quit in the middle of the season, and their parents are like, "Oh, he doesn't like it." It's like you're you don't know what you're teaching them right now.
Man.
They can opt out of anything in life with no consequences. And that's not how the real world works.
Yeah. I have to admit that's tough. It is really hard because my daughter, I dealt with that with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She started what was it? It was gymnastics. She got into gymnastics. She went hard. She was loving it. And all of a sudden she wanted to quit. And she was like, it's boring. I'm like, first, you're 5 years old. I don't know if you know what boring is. So you
Mm-hmm.
can you can say that. And I found out what it was is like she actually didn't like how much work she had to do in that hour. And so she related that to boring instead of saying like, no, I just don't like sweating and working hard. And I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you got to stay in this at least for the rest of this season. And she cried almost every day going. And it hurt as a dad. You don't want your
Yeah.
daughter to cry
Especially
going
if it's
somewhere
your
because
daughter. Yeah.
right, no, it was killing me. But it was like, no, I have to teach her that she can't just give up, that she has to finish what she started.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine. We can move on. Like she moved on to dancing, like ballet and tap. And she does soccer at school and does piano lessons. Awesome. I don't care how boring it gets. You're going to have to stay until the season's over. And then we can switch. And you're always going to have to do some type of sport because you got to stay physically active because it's
Mm-hmm.
healthy. And so, and it's my wife grew up the opposite where she's a brainiac, she's a genius, and so sports wasn't her thing, and so she tried them, and if she didn't want to do them she'd just stop, and it was okay for her. And so our different mindsets when it comes to that is she understands my philosophy on it, and she's like, you're the sports expert, I'll let you have that. And so we agree to disagree on it, and I think that's so important that the kids do not run when it gets hard or they don't like something, that they stick through because they might end up liking it once they get good. I think a lot of kids don't feel like they're good at the sport, and that's why they quit. It's
Hmm.
like, I'm not good as the other person. It's like, it's not about that. It's about just getting better yourself. So,
Yeah, and I saw a good clip by Cam Newton, uh, and I don't watch a lot of his stuff, but he was talking about how his son's playing football right now. He ain't the best on the team. He ain't worried that he's the best on the team. He wants him to see that there's kids better. He wants him to be like, so now you know what the work is you got to put in.
yeah,
You see who's the fastest? You got to put in the work. That's where you got to catch up. That's the level you got to get to, and then you got to excel even more. Because
hmm,
he's like, I'm not worried if my kid is the best at 8. I'll be worried about when he's not the best at 18. Because I don't
yeah,
care if he's the best at 8 if he's the worst at 18. He ain't
right,
even starting on varsity ball. And it's one of the things that with my son, he could have played down a level this year, and he's playing up this season, and he sees that there's good kids. And I was wondering how he was going to take it. And he just is like, no, Lucas, that kid is good. And I'm like, you know where you got to be, you know where you got to go. Like, so it pushes you, because he could have stayed down and just mollywopped kids.
right.
But what good
Yeah,
does that do?
it doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's like, all right, let's go up, have fun, see where the levels are at. And then it just has him want to work a little bit more, which I think is good.
yeah,
One of the other things I wanted to touch on was, because you are married, how is it that either advise people or just in your own household? How do you guys focus on you guys in the marriage versus the children? Because I see so many parents, their lives revolve around their sports children. They're taking
yeah,
daughter to softball, son to football, all this. And by the time those kids leave the nest, oftentimes those parents are actually strangers.
yeah,
They may love each other, but they're strangers because they've lived through their children.
yeah. So my wife and I have we're friends. We're like best friends. We really established a friendship before we got married, and we've maintained that friendship regardless of the ups and downs of like romance, right? You go through phases in marriage because you get married, you're on this honeymoon, you have kids, and like you said, you got to start sharing your love when you have the kids. And then at certain levels, like your parents start getting older, and so you have to start taking care of them. Then your kids become adolescents, and they're crazy and going through all these hormonal changes, and just different things in your life send your romance on an up and down scale. But your friendship, I think, has to be maintained throughout. And so we're huge on making sure every day we sit down and just have an hour. Like, so when the kids go to bed, that's our hour where we just sit down. Sometimes we talk, sometimes we don't, we just lay there, but we are with each other, and we know that's our space and time to connect daily. We don't let a day go by. Uh, you know, I'm gonna say most days don't go by without us just spending time together, right? The other part is making sure the kids know that marriage matter. I think we're the biggest example for them as the married people, to show them what a husband and wife should look like. And so I try my best. My kids run at me now, but before they could walk and move as fast as they did, when I come in the house from my day of work, I go and hug my wife first. I don't hug the kids first. Like,
Uh
no,
huh.
I'm not gonna
Same.
hug him, hug and hey, no, this is mommy first, and then you guys are the kids. I love you guys too. And just them seeing the affection and seeing how we communicate with one another, like we just want to be an example. We have to get back to date nights. We used to just do a date night every week. With the kids and their schedules, it does get away from us, and so we try to do it at least once a month now. Where before it was once a week. I think there's seasons with this. It's like um, my daughter is busy because she's 5. My son has a lot of extra attention that he needs right now with developmental stuff that we're going through with him, and so he has therapies that he has to go to, and he just requires a lot of attention from mostly my wife, but the both of us, and so I just make sure I create space for her to talk, to hang out, to like this past weekend, she just had a girls' weekend. Like, go away, don't think about us. Just text me and let me know you're alive, but
Yeah.
go. And so, just those moments of both of us being able to get away and recharge and come back strong. Um, but I could do better. We were actually talking about it. It's like, man, maybe we should just go do a marriage class. It forces us to go and spend time with one another and focus on our marriage because we know
Hmm.
that's most important. And I have a cheat code. So I'm a marriage counselor as well. Me and my wife do premarital counseling and marital counseling. So that helps as well when we get into those sessions. It's actually therapy for us too. We're like
Yeah.
reminding ourselves of these foundational things that
Hmm.
help a marriage last. And so I knew early on that I knew that before I even met my wife. I'm like, I'm gonna be a marriage counselor and I want to officiate weddings, like, because I knew that it would help keep the focus on marriage strong.
Hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I think that is so important. And with the kids and all their activities in the afternoon, my wife and I, we do mini dates in the mornings
nice.
because I only go to the gym 3 days a week. So then those other days we'll do little dates in the mornings, just hang out. Kids aren't even up, just us. And then she'll leave, go to the gym, and then the kids will wake up and I'll help them with some stuff, or the older one will make them breakfast and then I can get into my office. But we'll schedule stuff like that. And
I
then
like
we'll
that.
do an actual date day where the kids are just gone once a month.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, where they're just gone all day. At grandma's. Maybe they'll even stay the night at grandma's, and then we'll go get them the next day. But we'll do the micro dates numerous times throughout the week, and it's been huge. It
I like that.
is.
I'm
Yeah,
taking that from you. Like I actually probably have the schedule where I can do that now. Around this time, like um, to have those micro dates. I like that. I like that idea.
yeah. Because I like to get up early to go to the gym, so it's like I don't want to
Okay.
stay up late and hang out with my wife
Yeah.
because then it's conflicting with my sleep. And then am I not going to get up early? But she likes to not get up as early as me, but a little bit after. So I get up, do my stuff with my dog. We go do 3 miles. He gets in his exercise. I can come back, shower. Then she's, moving around. And then we still have hour and a half without the kids. And then she'll go and do her gym session. But it's all about calendaring and scheduling,
Yes.
like you said. I mean, there's so much that we can get done as couples if we actually just sit down, have our calendar side by side, and commit to it.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. I'm picking 2 days to have micro dates.
Do it, man. Do it because
Yeah.
we'll only do three. Sometimes we'll do four, depending on what the weekends are. But we got you got to be willing to check and adjust. Depending on, like you said, the seasons.
Yeah.
Seasons of things are different. And then you're a man of faith. What is your thought process on having sports possibly interfere with church on Sunday?
Man, that's a amazing question. I okay, so I don't see church the way that like a typical believer in Christ does. Like there is a call to fellowship in the
Hmm.
Bible, and so fellowship could look a lot of different ways. It doesn't
Hmm.
have to be you physically going to church on Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever it is. Um, and so for me, it's about making sure you're prioritizing spending time with God
Hmm.
daily, and then fellowshipping um, consistently as well. It's about prioritizing that. So I think you build it around that schedule. Like sports are on weekends, so maybe you have a Friday night Bible study at your house where you're fellowshipping with people. So right now, I don't have to deal with it. My kids don't do sports on the weekends
Hmm.
because they're young, but I do miss church sometimes to go to some of my students' games. Um, just what it is. I know that my relationship with God, the time that I spend in devotion and prayer and worship in the morning. So that's what I do when I wake up, is those things, and making sure my kids at this age, they do get to church and kind of build a foundation of what that looks like. Um, so for me, it's about prioritizing your time with God and spending time with Him. Uh, Jesus only went to the temple. The one time he went to the temple, he was turning tables
He
because he
was
was
turning
upset at what the
tables.
people
Yes,
were
he was.
doing. He he was out
Yes.
spreading the gospel
Mhm.
and spreading the kingdom of God while he was on earth for those, for those years. And so that's my goal. Wherever I go is church. That's my belief. And so in my business, I'm I am the church. I'm a representative
Mhm.
of heaven here on earth. And so I carry that with me wherever I go. And so people will tell you, like, when you're around me in a social setting, it kind of turns into church. It like automatically becomes, you know, encouraging, and life moments where either I'm getting advice or you're getting advice, or we're just fellowshipping, because I'm a believer that that's why Jesus left this earth, was for us to go and represent him in
Mhm.
everywhere we go. And so that's what the church is. It's not a physical building. The church, they talk about the word, when it's really broken down, it's talking about a kingdom. And a kingdom is a government system. And the government system we operate by is the kingdom of heaven. And so it's operating by the fruits of the spirit and all those things that Jesus represented it, right? In his ministry and in his word. And so that's what church is to me.
I love that answer. I think that was, if I could have someone explain my answer, if I had that same question, I'd be like, we got to call up Todd. I got to put him on speakerphone.
No, absolutely.
And no, and the reason I love that is because, like, kind of what you said in the beginning of this modern day Christian going to church on Sunday. Most of the Christians who go on Sunday are just lukewarm. They're like, all right, I checked that box on Sunday, and then the rest of the week don't matter, and then I can go back on Sunday, and the rest of the week what I do doesn't matter. Or at least where the areas that I live or the experiences I've come across, that's how it seems to be. And we haven't been going to church very consistently. We're part of a Bible study group. My kids do a kid only Bible study group that's on Wednesday nights. So I don't do anything football, sports on Wednesday nights. So they can go to
Awesome.
their, it's called the WANA.
Mhm.
So they can go
Where
to
you
their
located,
stuff.
Jesse?
We're in Reno, Tahoe area.
Okay,
We're right
gotcha,
between Reno and Lake Tahoe.
gotcha.
Yeah. So, and I agree. I mean, I got, I got my Bible right here
Yeah,
on my desk. I
I
even
see
have,
all my Bibles behind me right
yeah,
there. Yeah,
I even have a copy of the Torah right here.
nice.
You know, if I ever want to reference things, I got them both right here. And when I was saying that I do that 3 miles with my dog, it's me and God, because it's 4:34 in the morning. It's dark, and I get just nothing but rapport with God that
Yeah.
whole time on that 3 miles. What's up, big dog? See, he said, "Can I turn on the David and Goliath story?" One of my little boys. Hold on, give me a couple minutes, all right, big guy.
I love it.
Yeah, that was my 3-year-old. Um, but yeah, so I definitely have a very similar thought process. And then there are the times where it's like, okay, if we, where I want to instill that foundation of them going to church, so they have that foundation in their belief system, but
Yeah,
they see me getting into my Bible, they'll grab their Bibles because they want to do what dad does. So if we don't do any of those things, then they won't care about any of those things.
yeah.
Which um, I want to kind of get back to the kids and the athleticism topic. What is, I guess, some other tips or tricks or advice that you would give to just parents whose kids are, maybe the parents don't care anything about sports? They're like, I didn't play sports. I don't care if my son plays sports. he wants to play sports. Like what's the advice around that? Because I grew up where I thought I was very athletic, very good, could have played at multiple levels, and I grew up with a father who he never played sports. He would go and watch because I was in him, but he didn't care if I played another day ever
Right.
type deal. And so I never had anyone to push me in any of it, which really didn't help later in my career because I'd go hang out with girls. My buddies who didn't play would be like, hey, let's go do this. And I was starting to have no discipline.
Hmm. Yeah. Very similar for me. Like my parents, my dad played sports. There was just no emphasis on like, oh, this is where, this is what you have to do. They once again, they did it because I loved it. Um, my advice, I had a parent like this 2 years ago, a kid in my program. His dad was his dad is in the entertainment industry, and he kind of stumbled upon being in the entertainment industry and happened to be pretty successful at it though. And so for him, he was like, I would have never chose this life if I didn't stumble upon it and get lucky. I would have went to school and become an engineer or a lawyer or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then so his son, who has some promise in basketball, he was like, I don't really care about this at all. I don't care if he plays another day. And it took meeting with him multiple times, and it was me, not the kid, to show him like, hey, forget the sport. Your son is committed to doing something and going as hard as he can at it. You have to use this moment to teach him about success. You go hard at your job every single day and look where it's brought you. And you
Mm-hmm.
stumbled upon it. You didn't want to do it. He says that. It's weird though, because he's super successful with it. So it's like, use this so he can possibly stumble upon something that makes him successful as well. But you have to use this moment and use sports as a tool to build life skills and character. There's a book by Brett Ledbetter called What Drives Winning. And that's what it's about. It's about using sports to build character. Character, your character is more important than the sport that you play. Where is it? Yeah, What Drives Winning. And so, this book is it's ridiculous, man. The development, like he is the leading guy on speaking to sports teams and individuals on people who are struggling with their character and the sport. Like I had a bad game. I'm a terrible person because I had a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're more important than your sport. And so he has some great tools and stuff that I implement in a lot of my training and stuff that I do with that. And so I use this book and the concept to convince parents that, hey, sports are just a way to develop character and life skills. When I know, like, also the kid can go to college. Like, I've been around this thing for years. I'm telling you, your kid has what it takes to make it to college. I know what it looks like. And you're 6'4". Your kid is going to be tall, man. like, like, yeah. So,
No, I like that, putting that look on it of, hey, they found something they're committed to, just like you work your butt off in whatever it is that you do in life. Encourage that hard work, and then the opportunity. That's why I tell every kid, regardless of socioeconomics, have your kids in sports, man. They can go to college, regardless of what I think of college, because I don't know that I want my kids to go to college for other reasons. But if you can get to college for free through
yeah,
sports, why would you not encourage your kid to bust his butt in any sport that there is?
yeah.
And with that being said, getting to college, we're talking about athleticism, parents pushing. At what degree, because you look at the statistics of the percentage of kids who play D1 baseball, D1 basketball, D1 football, etc. There's those stats of like 100,000 kids play Pop Warner every year, and then only 60,000 kids play high school. And then of those, it goes down to like 1.3% actually play college, and then like 0.02% go to the NFL. Like
Mm.
that
Yeah.
that trend. At what point is it that it is the kid versus that raw talent? Because I've talked to guys like there are variables that happen in an athlete's life and how he reacts to those, whether he has a child in high school, whether he gets hurt or whether he gets caught up with girls. There's so many variables that can either say, this kid has all the talent. Me and you are standing on the sidelines. We're going, that kid's going, he's going to play on Sundays. And another kid behind him who it's like, that kid ain't ever going to play on Sundays. He'll play JUCO ball. But because of the variables in those two kids' lives, can be the one kid, the talent kid, never plays another down, or the JUCO kid works his ass off and makes it to Sundays. I'm not probably explaining this to the best, but where do you feel that there's those variables where the most talented kid, because there's been guys more talented than Jordan, there's been guys more talented than Kobe, but we just don't know about them because of how they
Right.
responded to something. Like Deion Sanders makes a great example how the most athletic dude he knew was his cousin, but he ended up being a crackhead. So no one
Hmm.
ever heard of the guy.
Yeah.
So where is the part of like telling a kid to just keep pushing forever because you never know what's going to happen versus, well, you're not the best on your high school team, so you can't ever make it.
I don't think it ever stops. I use my own example. I wanted to go to the NBA as a kid, had no idea how to get there, didn't have the right guidance through college even. And I just kept going. I tried out for a G League team. I'm playing on semi-pro teams. I'm trying to go overseas with no film. Like, I just kept going. And then I there's always this little break where like I'm not going to be playing at a high level, but I'm still going to be connected to basketball. So I took
Mm-hmm.
like an 8, 9 month period where I had to, I guess bereave my the death of basketball as me as a professional player. But then I just started training and I started doing basketball again. I always tell people, I tell these kids, it's like you can stay connected to this game your whole life. And I've been blessed to me, I'm in the NBA. I get to train NBA players every summer, every spring and summer. I like literally know maybe I gotta say at least 30, 40% of the NBA players who know me by name and including coaches, including GMs. Like I'm in the basketball circle because I never
Mm-hmm.
stopped. And I used every ounce of the work ethic that I put into training and being a player to staying connected to the game. And so I tell people to never stop because you can make the NBA. It's just not going to look how you want it to look. You
Mm-hmm.
might be a player manager. You might be a marketing person in the back office. Like you can stay connected to whatever sport you want to play if you keep on working hard. Like I want to be a pro at this. Being a pro doesn't mean you play at the highest league in the world. It means that you are the ultimate professional at whatever sport you're into. And so become that. And so I still have hoop dreams. Like I still have guys I want to play against that are in the NBA now. And I get that opportunity sometimes because I just never stopped. I stay in shape. I stay in the right circles. And I think it goes back to, I think the most important part of what you discussed is those players who were super talented and fell off. It was their environment. It was the people they were around. And us as coaches have to recognize how to insulate those people who are in bad environments, right? Like, how do we pull them out of this environment? Who do we put around them? Like, sometimes it literally is like, kid, come and live with me so you can get to where you're going to be, or, start hanging around these people and like kind of babysitting kids to where they need to be until they are mentored and grown to a place where they can handle it themselves. And sometimes they never get it. You see players like, and I don't know the full situation with John Wall, but you see players like even John Wall was in the NBA max contract and still talented. Like I saw him train this summer. He's still one of the best point guards in the NBA, but why isn't he in the league? And it has to be the people he's around. Like
Mm-hmm.
why wasn't he protected by his community so he can continue to be great? And so I think he even talks about that, being around the wrong people. And that's what it's about, is making sure you're around the right people so you don't go on crack and you know how to manage a relationship with the girlfriend, and you
Hmm.
know what places to be and where to be and who not to be with. And so that all comes with information though. And it's like the secret of all this, right? Is like, how do I become a pro? Everybody tries to keep it a secret, but it's actually out there if you go and listen. There's podcasts like this. There's stories on 30 for 30s. Like, oh, this is definitely what you don't do.
Hmm.
And hey, this is how Steph made it. Go watch Steph's thing. He just worked his butt off, like just didn't do anything else besides basketball. He fully focused on what he needed to do and become, uh, you know, small low major school, and then in the NBA, and he's a superstar. Change the
Yeah.
game of basketball. That's how you do it. If you're not willing to do that, fine, but that's how you do it.
Even that what is it, Cooper Cup? Uh,
Yeah.
his story about how like even when he was in high school, they're like, dude, you ain't any good.
Now he's Cooper Cup, right?
And they're like, you ain't any good. You ain't gonna play. And he's like, so I just kept working. I just
That's
kept
it.
working.
That's the secret sauce. And he just that's it. And he had the people around him to get him to where he's going to be. Man, your environment is so important to this whole blueprint to get to the highest level. And you see it, and it happens at different levels. It might be when you're young, the household you grew up in. It might happen in high school, the friends you hang out with, in college, the coaches that you're around. It happens in the pros, the people you start associating with. It happens on every level. And so maintaining a close inner circle, and then having I call it a brain trust, having a brain trust or a board of directors around you that helps you make decisions in your life for every area of your life so you don't fall away from what's important.
It's true. I mean, I remember watching that show Ballers when it first came out. And it's all just made up, it's a
Yeah.
TV show, but there was those exact examples. And I really liked that show because out of college I started a sports management agency.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so when I first saw that show first season, I was like, oh man, this is like I love this. Like this is a small part of me,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
my dad was always like, get in on the business side, get in on the business side, get in on the business side. And it's like, man, I want to be the guy in the arena.
Yeah.
And he would just be like, get in on the business of it, of whatever it was. And but even that show, there you see the guys who are like getting them in trouble, or then
Hmm.
there's the guys who they can trust who are leading them the right way. Uh, I think that's like just a good little TV show example of exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, Todd, do you have anything else for us? Anything else
No.
for the fathers out there who
For the
got
dads
kids in
out there,
sports? Yeah.
man, don't take any day for granted. Um, just love your kid the best way you know how, and your kids change when you change. I think people try to change their kids and we try to mold them and all that, but they only do what we do, not what we say. And so if you want to see a change in your kid, change how you act. And that, especially when it comes to sports, let them see your discipline, let them see your drive, let them see all those things your character, let them see those things, especially when they're playing the sport. They shouldn't be looking up at the stands for your validation. They should be having fun and in the moment and respecting the authority who is their coach, because that's what's going to make them successful long term. Um, so, yeah, that's the big thing. When you want to see change in your kid, change yourself.
That is gold right there. And get a sand pit.
Yes, and get a sandpit. Hey, I'm
Get a
telling you,
sand
my
pit.
daughter has hops. It's crazy. She can jump so high at 5 years old, and she doesn't even know. I'm like, just waiting for the moment you actually like sports, but she has
Yeah,
hops,
because
man.
I saw one of your clips where she don't even like basketball, and
No,
you're being the good father of like, okay, I'm just gonna be patient. I'm not gonna force it on her,
yeah.
but maybe one day.
And maybe one, because it's like randomly last week, right? This is after last week. She picks up a basketball and starts dribbling. Oh, I'm gonna do 20 dribbles with this hand, 20 dribbles with that hand, and I'm volunteering for this church team, um, and she wants to come to practice with me. She just wants to be in the gym. I'm like, all right, just stay in the environment. That's all.
Hmm.
That's all. She's watching what's happening. And I'm like, let's take it all in because I can teach you to play basketball, but I can't teach you to love the game. You're gonna have to do
Yeah.
that yourself.
And to the change in the kids part, like my kids want to go to the gym and lift. They've seen me compete in strongman competitions. They see that I'm at the gym. They know that I go at 0 dark 30 is what they call it. And they're always wanting to come and lift, and it's like you just can't yet, and they just get so crushed. But if I didn't go to the gym as religiously as I do, they would have zero interest in going to
Right.
the gym.
Yeah.
Like they're always asking if I for some reason have like a early meeting, someone East Coast or whatnot, and I have to adjust my gym time, and they see me leaving the house like for an 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. gym session, they'll almost cry because they can't come.
Wow.
They just want to go to the gym. And they've been to the gym for me doing picking up something or here picking up a pamphlet for my competition or weighing in whatnot. I'll like take them and they like, they're just in such
The
awe.
spectacle.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
started doing beach body workouts. So I'm like doing sanity workout, and so they join in. They'll join in on the
Hmm.
workout, and so they know working out is important. That's all I want them to know is working out is important because it's not natural for kids to see that. They're gonna see, oh man, daddy's working out every day. I do the little 20-minute transform thing, and so it's quick, but I just want them to see me work out,
Hmm.
and they hop on the thing. Even my son, who is not all coordinated yet, but he tries to do the workout too. And it's like, they hop in and out of it, but they see that, oh, working out's important. I got
Hmm.
to do that. And so,
Yeah. One of my big goals is building a really good home gym. Because the gym I go to, man, they got all the things that I want. So when someone's like, "Oh, you can build a home gym easy," it's like not with the things that I want, but I want to
right.
build one here. So they literally hear that iron hitting the ground. Like
Yeah.
that's what wakes them up. They're like, "Oh, we got to
Yeah.
get up in time to work out with dad. We got to get
Yeah.
up in time."
Yeah. Did you,
Those things.
Darren Hardy?
Yeah, I know Darren
Okay.
Hardy. Yeah, publisher, editor of Success Magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so that was his story. His dad would wake up and lift weights at 6 a.m. That was his alarm clock.
the
And so
discipline that his dad had. Yes.
And he learned that,
Uh-huh.
oh, you wake up and you work out. That's what you do because that's what dad, that's how dad wakes me up every day. And so,
And
no, I
he
love that.
still looks good, Darren Hardy.
Yeah, no, he played football. Same thing. He played
Uh-huh.
football, and it was, his dad who got him into being just lifting and all that. And he became a salesman and all that. So, but though that, what his dad taught him in discipline and waking up and doing the same thing every day is what got him to the success that
Hmm.
he had.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
That exact phrase, the iron like hitting the ground, is like I took from him.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah. You
man, I
knew
love that.
that.
I've
Yeah.
listened to that book like 15 times. I love Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. Awesome book. So,
Well, yeah. And I often think parents don't realize, especially fathers, that our kids are literally mimicking everything we do.
yeah,
Yes, our kids are their own little humans, but we are essentially programming their hard drives with us. Like
yeah,
that is it. And then they're adding their own little quirks to it.
yeah, absolutely.
And we don't understand that enough, I don't think. I think most
Nope.
fathers think like, "Oh, my fucking kid, he's just annoying little shit because that's how he is." He's like, "No, it's like there's a lack of leadership there, bud."
It's because you feel like that about him that he acts
Hmm.
like
Yeah,
that. Yep, yep.
exactly. Todd, I would like you to tell us all about the Core Prep Academy and what it is that you guys do, your mission, etc.
Yeah, so Core Prep Academy is it's training for serious student athletes inside of your school day. So we partner with schools where we supplement their PE class and elective classes for sports specific training. So instead of a kid doing regular PE, they'll do football training, basketball training, whatever their sport is. We hire coaches who have played very high levels or coached high levels. And so they're getting literally the best of the best training inside of their school day. And they're in a traditional setting. A lot of sports academies now, it's you go to a facility, it's a homeschool program, so you do homeschool and then you do training. We have it to where it's a traditional setting academically and socially. It's just when it's time for you to train, you're training with some good coaches, and it's a very competitive environment. We've been doing it for 10 years now, where we have two locations, one in Northridge, California, and one in Santa Monica. We have 250 kids in the program this year and over 500 alumni over the years. It started with Johnny Juzang, who's in the NBA, plays for the Utah Jazz. He was our first kid in the program and kind of set the precedent for, oh, this is for high level kids, and it's just grown from there. It started with basketball for the first 3 years, and then we added baseball, then football, and now we added girls sports as well. And so um, it is the way athletes should do school.
I like that. Yeah. So how do you guys arrange that? Is it before, after school, during school?
It's literally their PE class. So,
Okay.
and at the schools I'm at, we have block scheduling, and so they have 4 periods a day, and then
Hmm.
they flip flop A B schedule. So two of those periods that are the same time of the day, say basketball is from 8 to 9:30 a.m. every single day, and then we also have a strength and conditioning class that they do every other day, and so they're getting, you know, pretty high school, almost high school level training during middle school day.
And these kids, is it at their school or they leave?
No, it is at school.
Oh,
They are
cool.
students of the school. Like so, I've partnered with the schools to provide this service, and
Man,
so we are the PE class for the athletes.
how do you franchise that to here, to where we live?
We're working on it.
Okay.
No, we there. I know there's an opportunity there. We have what it takes. We're just trying to. Every school is different,
Hmm.
and that's the thing. Is like fitting into the school culture is where we have to really dial in because we change it. Like we're at our school at Heritage Christian, we're 60% of the middle school. Like
Okay.
we are the middle school essentially. And so we changed the culture. Now you have a bunch of athletes who are the culture of the school. And so a school who's operating a certain way that the administrators have to truly understand what student athletes bring, right? And
Hmm.
that diversity, the competitive dynamic. Um, and so we're building a process to when a transition happens that we bring in core to another school is seamless. It makes sense for everyone because we have to train the teachers, we have to train the administrators, we have to train the kids of how to mold the environments together. And we've had a lot of success as of late. At first, it was crazy. First 3 years was rough, and then we figured it out over the last seven to really implement it and get it to where it needs to be.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to the day you bring it to my neighborhood.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it too. It's an awesome program, and I think every every major community should have one.
Yeah. And how
Yeah,
many schools are you guys at right now?
we're just at two right now.
Two. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, two schools. So only here
And
in Southern California.
how would you say those two schools, their athletic programs and the results? Because are they middle school, high schools? One is a middle school, high
Yeah,
school. What about the other
they're
one?
both they're both K
Okay.
through 12.
So those two schools, how have their high school athletic programs, how have they performed? Have you guys seen that
Oh
hockey
yeah,
stick effect?
100%. So
That is
at the
cool.
Santa Monica location, we had football. The next year, when those eighth graders became freshmen, they won a CIF title. And so that was pretty cool. It's pretty right away. At Heritage, where we've been for 10 years, it was our flagship location. The amount of talent that's come through the basketball program, especially, has just been it's been crazy. And so, no titles yet, but definitely high level competitive, competing with the best schools in California every year. And so, this is my last year at Heritage, where's my flagship location. What has happened is the kids, Southern California is crazy just when it comes to high school sports. And
Hmm.
so, a lot of the kids who are in the program end up leaving to go to other programs in the area that you know that they feel will be the right fit for them competitively. And so, um, yeah, because of that, Heritage is actually, this is my last year at Heritage. So I'm looking for a new location out here in the San Fernando Valley area of Los Angeles. So, to move my program to continue to do what we do.
What's that really good basketball program down in Los Angeles area?
Uh, Harvard Westlake is the top right now. Sierra Canyon is probably one you're talking about. That's like where Bronny's son went to, or
I don't
Bron's son went
know.
to,
I
or
just heard Gilbert Arenas that you brought him up was saying I didn't send my kid there because I wanted him to play against him.
oh yeah, Sierra Canyon. Yeah, it's probably
Yeah.
Sierra Canyon that he was talking about. Yeah. And so Sierra Canyon is one of the top programs every year. They're a national program. They get kids from all over the country to go to their school. And
Hmm.
some local as well. And so we have some kids from our program at that school. We have Harvard
That's what
West.
my next question was going to be is have you guys lost kids to these top basketball programs?
Well, it's never a loss for me when my kids go to
True,
a top
true.
school. Like I'm the middle school guy. We,
Yeah.
our goal was always to retain 50% of the kids to our partner schools,
Hmm.
and we're at like 48%. And so,
Okay.
over the 10 years. And so we've done a decent job of doing that. And once they get to high school, I'm not a high school coach. It's out of
Hmm.
my hands. And so, um, Harvard Westlake won back-to-back Open Division championships. They're like the top school right now, just because they got the banners. They run like a college. And so we have four students there now on the team. And so, but we have kids at all the private schools. So Crespi. So the Mission League in Southern California is arguably the top league in the country,
Hmm.
just when it comes to basketball. And so we have kids all over in all those schools, plus all the other private schools and some of the public schools in the area. So yeah, our alumni list is pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy in
Oh,
every sport. That's the other thing is like we have football. We have like six kids in Division 1 for football right now. Our better kids for football. I had football for 1 year and then I got rid of it for like three, and then I brought football back. And those kids who are coming up are ridiculous. We've had three Team USA All Americans in baseball in middle school. And yeah, in the girls' sports as well, we have like a national kid that's on the Israeli national team for softball, um, and we have some of the top soccer girls in the country as well in middle school.
Todd, this is cool, man.
No, it is. It's that yeah. It's been awesome. It started by accident and it grew into a business. So
And is that your main focus? Is that business?
yes, yeah.
Nice.
That is yeah. That's what takes up most of my day is running that. So
Okay, awesome.
yeah.
Well, hell yeah. Yeah, again, with the day, I already have a school in mind for you.
We'll talk offline. If it can work, it can work. So yeah, let me know.
Well, Todd, I appreciate it, man. This one was fun, especially being a father who has sons getting into sports and starting to really love sports. Well, maybe one day we'll do it again. We'll do an update and just talk about more of this whole realm because I think it's important for fathers and parents to understand this sports dynamic with their children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was fun. Appreciate the talk, and it helped me as well. Just some little gold nuggets in there just for myself. So appreciate the time.